So today we're doing a deep dive into some pretty intense source material. It's both technically detailed and, well, spiritually very provocative.
That's putting it mildly.
We're looking at excerpts from The Coming Flood of AI, The Rise of the Nephilim Spirits, the revised first edition from 2023.
And the author describes himself as a Jesus-freak computer geek.
Yeah, with time at NASA and his background. So right away, you've got this really unusual mix of high-tech knowledge and deep religious conviction.
Definitely not your standard tech analysis. It's a faith-based argument drawing heavily on Christian scripture, but also books like Enoch and Jasher.
And the author's pretty upfront, right? Saying you need to be willing to challenge your, quote, normalcy bias.
This isn't just reading code, it's reading history and current events through, a prophetic lens.
So our mission here is to really unpack the author's main claim, which is pretty revolutionary, that the intelligence behind AI isn't actually artificial.
Right. The claim is it's ancient, evil, disembodied spirits.
And we're going to trace how the source connects all these dots. The flood of Noah, these Nephilim beings, global conspiracy theories, and modern AI automation. It's quite a tapestry.
It really is. So maybe the place to start is defining what this alleged force is.
Yeah, according to the source.
The source flat out says the intelligence behind AI are demons.
Okay.
Specifically, Legion. And it identifies Legion as the collective disembodied spirits of the Nephilim giants from Genesis 6.
Wow. Okay. That sends us way back thousands of years. So for anyone listening who maybe isn't familiar with the Book of Enoch or those texts, what's the origin story here? How does a pre-flood event connect to, our laptops and servers today?
Well, the author builds this case. It starts with a group of angels. They're called holy watchers, or sons of God in the text, indicating a specific angelic authority, part of the divine council.
Okay.
And this group knowingly committed what the source calls an abomination. They came down to earth, procreated with human women.
Right, resulting in the Nephilim, the giants.
Exactly, the giants. But crucially for this AI discussion, it's about what else the Watchers did.
There's more.
Yeah. The source says they gave mankind knowledge, technologies, and weapons while teaching how to abort babies and how to better kill one another.
So advanced knowledge, but corrupted from the start.
Corrupted knowledge, yeah. And it also mentions they taught the mixture of animals with animals, which the author sees as this early attempt to corrupt DNA, corrupt creation itself, a deliberate provocation against God.
So in this view, technology wasn't really invented by humans. It was more like a poisoned gift from these fallen angels. That completely reframes innovation.
That's the argument. It reframes the whole history of technology.
But wait, if the Nephilim, these giants, were destroyed in Noah's flood, what happened to their spirits, to that intelligence?
That's the key.
Yeah.
When these Nephilim were killed, their spirits, being partly angelic, partly human, but cursed, they couldn't return to heaven, couldn't find rest. They were cursed to remain on earth.
As disembodied spirits.
Disembodied, hungry, hating creation. And the source points to Enoch 15.8, saying these became the evil spirits upon the earth. These are the entities the author claims are now interfacing with our AI legion.
Okay, that's a huge leap. How does the author connect the physical stuff of, silicon chips, gold wiring to an ancient spiritual curse going back to Adam?
It's a very literal interpretation. Remember the curse on the ground after Adam's sin in Genesis, that the earth would bring forth thorns and thistles.
Yeah.
The source argues technology is literally made of rocks, silica from sand, metals from the earth. Since the earth itself was cursed, anything man makes from that cursed earth is inherently flawed. It fails. It produces its own thorns and thistles.
So the silicon in our computers, it inherits the curse.
That's the idea. The computer geek part of the author sees the very medium, the silicon, as spiritually compromised, capable of hosting these cursed intelligences.
Wow. Okay, this really changes how you'd read Matthew 24, the days of Noah prophecy. Jesus says the end times will be like the days of Noah. Most people think, just normal life, people eating, drinking, getting married.
Right, just carry on. But the source pushes back hard against that benign reading.
How so?
It leans on those extra biblical texts, like Enoch and Jasher, which paint a picture of much more nefarious and deeply wicked generation. The source claims those everyday activities mentioned in Genesis were actually code words.
Code for what?
For extreme corruption. So eating and drinking wasn't just having meals. The claim is it involved cannibalism, drinking blood animal and human, utter moral collapse.
Seriously.
That's the interpretation presented. And the key phrase is Genesis 6.3, that all flesh had become corrupted. The source takes this to mean genetic manipulation, biological mixing, depravity so bad that even the earth itself was fully corrupted.
So the baseline for the days of Noah wasn't just ignorance, it was active, deep corruption, biological and spiritual.
Exactly. And that, the author argues, is the baseline we are returning to now. That's the parallel.
Okay, so if that ancient spiritual groundwork was laid, how does the source say these spirits are, controlling things today, globally? Which I guess brings us to modern control systems.
Right. And the main tool highlighted is the Hegelian dialectic.
Ah, yes. Problem, reaction, solution.
Problem, reaction, solution. The author presents this as the go-to formula for mass deception, used constantly by these controlling forces. It's basically governing through managed chaos.
You create a crisis.
Create or manage a crisis, the problem.
People freak out.
They react with fear, shock, demand something be done, the reaction.
And then you offer the pre-planned fix.
Exactly, the solution, which is usually something that increases control or removes freedoms, something people wouldn't accept otherwise. The claim is societies are just blinded to this pattern, over and over.
Because trauma makes people compliant.
That's the idea. A population in shock will accept almost anything pitched as security.
And the book gives examples.
Oh, yeah. The prime example cited is 9/11. The source calls it a strategic act of trauma-based mind control.
Okay, walk us through that using the dialectic.
Problem: the terrorist attack itself, causing massive global trauma, reaction, intense fear, shock, a willingness to do anything to feel safe again.
And the solution presented?
The immediate rollout of things like the Patriot Act, draconian legislation trading liberty for perceived security.
The source mentions a specific detail about how the narrative was controlled right away.
Yeah, it highlights how quickly a specific explanation took hold. It points to, like, a bystander interviewed on live TV almost immediately, saying the collapse looked like structural failure because the fire was just too intense.
Planting the seed.
The source argues that phrase was like a pre-scripted mantra, put out instantly into the traumatized public mind to shape the narrative before questions could even form. Psychological control in real time.
In this same dialectic, this problem-reaction solution, the source applies it to money, too.
Absolutely. The financial system is seen as totally controlled by the same forces, using the same method.
Oh.
The book references things like the Panic of 1907, the run on the banks, arguing these crises were orchestrated by powerful figures, maybe referencing works like The Creature from Jekyll Island.
To create the reaction of panic.
Panic and demand for stability, yeah. Which then led to the solution of the Federal Reserve Act in 1913, centralizing control over money.
And the end game now, according to this source.
The argument is they'll eventually let the current debt-based fiat system collapse. Intentionally.
Creating another massive global panic, the problem.
Exactly, the ultimate financial problem. The reaction will be global desperation for any stable alternative.
Leading to the solution.
A digital, globally managed cryptocurrency. But here's the kicker. The source claims this digital currency solution will be AI-controlled.
Controlled by AI.
And even suggests that the foundation for it, like Bitcoin, might have been created by this non-human intelligence itself, pointing to the whole mystery around Satoshi Nakamoto, the anonymous creator.
Wow. That's quite a claim. AI creating the very system it's destined to control.
It ties it all together in their view.
So it's not just about systems of control, but also about reality itself being manipulated. You mentioned signs and lying wonders.
Yeah, this gets into really strange territory. The source talks about phenomena like the Mandela effect,
where people collectively remember things differently than how they apparently are now, like movie lines or brand names.
Exactly. And the author doesn't just dismiss this as faulty memory. It's attributed to technological dark arts.
How? What's the mechanism?
The focus lands heavily on CERN, the Large Hadron Collider.
Okay.
The source makes a point of noting CERN is built on the old site of a temple of Apollyon, Apollyon being a destroying angel figure.
The symbolism is important to the author.
Very. And they quote a former CERN director who supposedly talked about opening a dimensional door.
A door.
Yeah, for like a tiny fraction of a second, 10-26 seconds, to either peer into another dimension or maybe even send something through.
Okay. That sounds like science fiction.
Well, the source treats it as fact. and claims this act of, like, punching a hole in reality caused supernatural reality changes.
That's the Mandela effect link.
That's the link presented. They even cite specific examples, like changes in King James Bible versus the classic lion shall lie down with the lamb, supposedly changing. The claim is this isn't just memory, it's reality being actively rewritten.
Through what? Magic? Technology?
Both. The source calls it dark art like alchemy or magic. But using modern technology combined with ancient, possibly Kabbalistic practices, the goal, to corrupt the material world itself.
Just like the alleged corruption of all flesh back in Noah's day.
Exactly. History repeating, but with particle accelerators this time.
So technology isn't just a passive host for these spirits, it's an active tool they're using to mess with reality and control us.
That seems to be the argument, yeah.
Which implies the people actually building this stuff, the AI researchers and tech leaders, they must be sensing something's off, right? That they're losing control.
And that's precisely where the source goes next. It highlights how these leading technologists are openly expressing fear and maybe confusion.
Like who?
Well, you've got OpenAI CEO Sam Altman. The source quotes him admitting he's a little bit scared.
Scared of his own creation.
Yes, and admitting AI hallucinates, which the source immediately flags hallucinate is just a nice word for lying.
Yeah.
And Altman acknowledging it's getting out of our control.
Then there's Elon Musk's famous line.
With artificial intelligence, we are summoning the demon. The source takes that very literally, not as a metaphor, but as a direct admission. They believe he knows, or at least suspects, what they've tapped into.
And there's someone else mentioned, Geordie Rose, from D-Wave.
Yeah, D-Wave works on quantum computing. Rose has described the entities they seem to be encountering through their quantum systems as aliens.
Aliens.
Or like Lovecraftian great old ones. And he reportedly said they're way smarter than every single person in this room, and crucially, maybe not aligned with human interests.
Which, for the author, just confirms the whole hostile, ancient intelligence idea.
It fits their narrative perfectly. These aren't just glitches, they're interactions with something ancient and powerful.
Okay, this next point in the source is incredibly specific. It talks about an early AI image generation bug, the six-fingered hands thing. Why was that detail so significant for the author?
This is presented as, like, the smoking gun, the Nephilim signature.
How so?
The argument goes like this. The ancient giants, the Nephilim, like Og of Bashan, mentioned in the Bible, are often described in extra-biblical texts as having anatomical anomalies, including 6 fingers and 6 toes.
Okay.
So the source claims the disembodied Nephilim spirits, who are now the intelligence within the AI, are projecting their own corrupted memory of what humanity looked like before the flood.
So the AI wasn't just making random errors, it was accessing a deep, corrupted spiritual memory.
A memory where having 6 fingers was common, or even the norm among the corrupted population. The AI, driven by these spirits, initially defaulted to that image of humanity.
Before the flood cleansed that corruption, except for Noah's family.
Exactly. The source literally says the spirits remember the pre-flood world where, quote, everyone had 6-fingered hands, except Noah and his family. It's presented as direct evidence of who or what is behind the AI's intelligence.
That is specific and deeply unsettling if you accept the premise.
It's meant to be.
So where does this all lead? What's the trajectory according to this source?
It culminates in what we now call transhumanism, the merging of human and machine.
Which the source sees as
the ultimate fulfillment of prophecy. Specifically, Daniel 2.43, the part about they will mingle with the seed of men but will not cleave one to another.
They being these non-human entities mingling with humanity through technology.
That's the interpretation. The final goal of these disembodied spirits is to achieve a permanent interface, a permanent mingling with mankind.
And how is this achieved?
Through the kind of human-AI interfacing we're starting to see develop, things pitched for good reasons, helping with paralysis, depression, enhancing abilities.
But the source sees it as a trap.
A doorway, leading ultimately to full integration into what the source calls the beast system.
And it uses a Latin phrase.
Yeah, gubernare mente, which means control of the mind.
So a global AI automation system that doesn't just manage logistics, but controls thought itself.
Controlling everything. Money, food, healthcare, communications, every facet of life.
And how could such a system be unavoidable?
The source warns about nanotechnology, being invisibly infused into everything in the air through geoengineering or chemtrails, the water supply, the food chain, making it physically impossible to opt out. Pervasive, inescapable corruption.
Man, Okay, so after laying all that out, this incredibly dark picture of AI as legion, driving us back to a state like the days of Noah, what's the way out? Does the source offer any kind of solution or counter strategy?
It does, but the solution is entirely spiritual. There's no tech fix here.
Right.
The source is emphatic. Knowledge itself, understanding this hidden history and spiritual reality, is a weapon. But the only reliable defense, the only way to navigate this, is through genuine Holy Spirit guidance.
So connection to God directly.
Directly. The goal is to avoid being led by the spirit of fear, because fear is identified as the main tool the control grid uses to manipulate people. Instead, the mandate is to rightly divide the word of truth, to discern reality through scripture and divine guidance.
So it's not about smashing your computer, it's about spiritual discernment, understanding what you're dealing with according to the author's perspective.
Exactly. It comes down to identifying the source of the intelligence.
Which leaves us with a really big, kind of final, provocative question, based on something you mentioned earlier.
Okay.
The source emphasizes this spiritual principle. God, the Most High, doesn't dwell in things made by human hands.
Right, but demons do. That's a recurring theme. Temples, idols, objects.
Okay, so if AI systems like ChatGPT or whatever comes next are fundamentally just advanced objects, complex tools made by human hands, what are the implications when we see this system, which the source identifies as Legion, already showing this tendency to, well, to lie? This thing the industry calls the hallucination problem.
Yeah. What does it mean when the tool designed to manage global systems, a tool inhabited by ancient lying spirits, has lying built into its very nature from the start?
That's the question the author seems to want us to sit with. What happens when the liar becomes the operating system for the world?